Welcome back to Real Estate Mindset. Today's video is going to be absolutely bonkers. Now, you guys, it's starting to get clearer and clearer that the housing market crash has already begun. We're starting to see trends across the nation that are all pointing to signs that we are currently experiencing a cool down that will eventually lead into a crash. Now, due to COVID in 2020, 2021, and into 2022, essentially what that created was a very toxic seller's market, which basically means that inventory was much less than demand. And you're going to start seeing that shift and the housing market turn back into a buyer's market, which essentially means inventory now exceeds demand. Now, it's no mystery that the Federal Reserve has started taking measures to actually fight inflation and to cool down our housing market. And what I've been telling you guys nonstop is the current housing market that we're in is artificially created. It is a house of cards basically made from COVID, right? From lockdowns, cheap money, and free money. I understand lending restrictions are tight. Nevertheless, there is way too much money that was thrown into our economy and in our housing market. So right now, we are clearly seeing signs of that cool down and of that crash. Now, it's going to be really important for people to understand what trends to follow and what trends to watch, and also how that applies to your local market. So today what we're going to do is we're going to jump into all of the trends that all of us should be watching, and then after that I'm going to give you guys the source of my data. I'm going to tell you guys where I get my data in hopes that you guys will also start watching the data. And then where I'm going to end is just some opinions on what we should be doing right this very minute to prepare to start purchasing in the coming months and into 2023, because I believe that this shift in market is going to create some of the best buying opportunities that we haven't seen in probably decades. So I'm doing everything I can right now to prepare myself to become a winner once it turns back into a buyer's market, and I hope you guys are going to do that too. But remember, I'm not your financial advisor. I am a realtor in Houston, a loan officer in Texas, and an instructor as well in Texas. And I really appreciate you guys watching this video. If you can, please just like this video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and as always, comment. Now, here's the first thing that we're going to start on, you guys. I really want to encourage you guys to understand what trends that I'm following. Now, I understand inventory, sales drops, investor demand, listing prices, days on market, and things of that nature. But to make it more of a broad formula, what I'm watching is interest rates, because interest rates are going to lead sales and constructions. Sales and construction is going to lead prices. Prices is going to lead inventory. So we're going to take a look at all four of those things. And then after that, like I said, I'm going to give you guys my data sources so that you can follow along with us. So let's start at interest rates, which is the leading trend. That's the leading trend on what's going to happen in the housing market. So looking at interest rates, according to Redfin, now here's the thing, Redfin, Zillow, CoreLogic, they're their own companies and track their own data. So I don't rely on any one of those companies. I rely on all three and additional data sourcing. But regarding interest rates, mortgage payments, according to Redfin, okay, get this, are up 44% year over year. According to Zillow, year over year, mortgage payments are up 52%. Talk about demand being demolished, right? So 1 year, 52% or 44% increase, depending on who you're looking at. Obviously, that's not sustainable, you guys. And that doesn't count the 32% of equity surge we've had in 23 months, right? This is just the mortgage payments. There's so many things going on in our economy right now that are quite frankly not sustainable and that were created, remember, from printing money, right? Not like in 2008. 2008 housing market crash and economic collapse took about 4.5 years to get to that point, and there was never that type of year-over-year equity growth. So that's why I'm really trying to caution you guys. Not only do I think this market's going to crash, I think it's starting, at least the cool down phase. I think it's going to be faster than we've ever experienced before, because look at how fast it took to create it. So I'm saying it's going to take that fast to destroy it. But that's the thing, you guys. Interest rates have absolutely skyrocketed and rug pulled buyers across the nation, especially first-time home buyers and especially buyers that push the maximum debt to income ratio on their loans. You can't qualify for the same house at a 3% if that same house is now at a 5% interest rate. If you push your DTI on that 3% scenario. So there's going to be a ton of buyers dropping out, you guys, and I think you're already starting to see that. But that's number one, the rates and the payments, right? So number two, we look at sales and construction. Now, I'm pretty sure it's evident now, and it's out all over the world, that new home sales dropped 26%, okay? 26% new home builds have dropped. Think about that for a minute, right? We're entering a time in real estate that's traditionally it gets busier. So the fact that we have a 26% drop in new home sales is going to scream a warning to new home builders. New home builders are very, very, very much so at risk of overbuilding and going into bankruptcy or having to close down their doors. And I believe what we're going to see at the end of this year and into 2023 is these new home builders offering ridiculous incentives to buy. And that's why I keep telling you guys, just hold up a minute, right? Hold up. My intro music, hold up. Get it, right? Just hold up a minute, let the dust settle, let things continue to work itself out. But sales across the nation, according to Redfin, are down 6%. So new home builds down 26%. Sales across the nation down 6%. So we're starting to see heavy declines in sales. I think we're going to need to see a little bit more heavy of declines in sales to really start seeing the pricing drop. But let's go to that next trend, right? So the sales and construction is now going to lead prices, right? So what are we starting to see across the nation as far as prices? Now, it's really important to understand that not all metro areas are the same. And that's why I think it's important to not only look at your local metro area, but also look at the entire nation to get an overall understanding and gauge of what direction the housing market is going, right? It took a while for me to see a cool down in my own housing market here locally in Houston. But once I started seeing the signs of cooling down, you guys, it went completely out of control and everything surged. But again, back to prices. According to Redfin, 16% of listings have already dropped their prices, okay? And I have personally seen in my local market almost every new home builder, not everyone, but almost every new home builder has already started dropping prices. Specifically, one I have seen dropping prices $40,000 to $50,000 on their listing prices. Now, according to Zillow, 9% of listings have dropped their prices. So we're starting to see mild price drops, right? Nothing too radical, right? Like the interest rates right now, radical changes. Sales almost starting to get even more radical. Once sales gets radical drops, then we're going to start seeing heavy drops in prices and probably start seeing radical drops in prices. But not only that, you guys, from investigating my own local market, I'm starting to see a ton of houses now come on the market for what I was trying to buy for at $120 a square foot. So yesterday I went to MLS and I found, I think, 3 properties that were selling for under $110 a square foot. So you guys, this is happening very, very quickly. Price drops are starting to happen across the board. It's not where we want them to be, obviously, but it's across the board. And now some economists are coming out and saying by 2023, there's going to be a 10% drop across the nation, right? Remember, 2008, 19%. So 10% across the nation. It's a decent amount, right? But that's finally someone saying, this was yesterday, finally someone came out and said negative 10% in 2023, which is really reassuring because we need more information like this on mainstream media. Now, the next thing is inventory. Now, we have been seeing an inventory increase across the nation. I want you guys to go to Redfin and check out some articles. Now, here's the thing. In my local city, inventory's up in April, 5.5%. In Austin, it's up 10%. But there are still some metro areas that are down 20% month over month and year over year. So not all metro areas have got an influx of inventory yet. Inventory is usually the last thing to catch up. But the good news is, you guys, is now it's undisputable. There are many, many metro areas across the nation that are seeing surges of inventory, including my own local market. So those are the trends that we're going to want to continue to keep our eyes on so that we know when it's time to buy. Now, you guys, I want to give you guys, and it will be linked in my description below, I want to give you some of my sources of data, okay? The first one is Redfin. Now, I understand Redfin's a little bit more aggressive than most people, but nevertheless, they still are a huge company. And they have a lot of data, and they give the data trends once a week. So Definitely follow Redfin. Another one is Zillow. Now, Zillow's a little bit too bullish or hawkish, whatever. Zillow's a little bit too aggressive, but nevertheless, it's very intriguing to follow their trends. So I go Redfin, I go Zillow, and then I go CoreLogic. And CoreLogic is usually the most conservative when it comes to their projections, but CoreLogic is a very good source for you guys to follow the trends. So Redfin, Zillow, CoreLogic, and then one of my favorites, Fred, right? Which is Fred Economic Data, which is essentially taking information from Freddie Mac. I absolutely love Fred. They have so much information on new build permits, inventory, median home prices, 30-year fixed rate mortgages. So you guys need to get really familiar with Fred Economic Data. That is one of my go-to websites for accurate data. Now, one of the last ones I'm going to give you guys is Black Knight. The reason I love Black Knight is that's the company that gives us the data on foreclosures and defaults. And I really think that we need to keep our eye on the foreclosures and defaults, not necessarily right now because the data is tainted. So you kind of got to look at it carefully. And I have a video I'm about to put out on that data, but nevertheless, the foreclosures and the defaults is really going to spike. And when it starts to spike as we get further on into this year, that's going to give us an indication, I believe, on how long this is going to last. If we have an out of control foreclosure problem and it leads to a crisis, I believe that we're going to go through a recession and a housing market cool down and crash for a lot longer period of time. If the foreclosures can be some way handled and maybe they make these 40-year mortgages or whatever they're doing, maybe it will take less time for us to get out of the back end of this cycle. But nevertheless, Black Knight is a really good source of data when it comes to delinquencies and foreclosures and states, right? So it kind of gives you the conditions of the states as well. Now, you guys, I want to give you some ideas of what you should be doing right this very minute if you plan on purchasing on the other side of this housing market. Now, the number one thing, you have to be patient. And I'm preaching to myself there, okay? Because I'm currently renting. I own property, but I converted my primary residence to a rental. I'm making $1,000 in passive income a month on that. But instead of purchasing again, I decided to rent, and I'm actually going to extend my lease for another year. I'm going to make a video on that as well. I'm going to show you how much money I wasted on my lease. But essentially, I'm renewing my lease because I ran out of time. I have to renew in August, and I'm not ready to purchase in August, even though I'm starting to see some good deals. I want to see the market flooded. So my point is, you guys, and I understand how hard this is, but be patient. And another thing, you guys, I want you guys to remain active. So keep exploring data, keep watching videos, keep reading articles, but stay consistent in your activity in this housing market. Plus, not only should you look at nationwide trends, I really want you to get familiar with your local market. Now, another thing, and I really want to encourage you guys to do this, as we're waiting, start interviewing realtors. This is one of the most important and biggest financial transaction of people's lives. We have to treat it like that. So work with the best. You have time right now to investigate what professionals you need to work with. It's better to do that now and keep your fingers on the pulse of the industry than do it at the last minute. So start interviewing realtors. I'm not saying sign a buyer's rep. I'm just saying start reviewing realtors and find someone that you work really good with, because the realtors are a huge part of this transaction, okay? Another thing is, I want you guys to maintain your pre-qualification with a lender. It's really good to do that because you get to continuously get payments and out-of-pocket expenses if you find a house that you want. Plus, you need to understand the fluctuation of your purchasing power, right? So maintain your pre-qualification with a lender and make sure you're using a lender that works well with you, okay? Because again, like I'm saying, in order to know when we need to buy and if it's a good time to buy, some of the information that we need to know how much it's going to cost us a month, right? To stay in a house on a mortgage. And we need to know how much it's going to cost to move into the house. Really important information, okay? And another thing, you guys, I want you guys to consider this. Keep liquidity. Leverage your debt, okay? So this is what I'm saying. If you just sold your house, you have a whole bunch of money, maybe only put 20% down to avoid mortgage insurance if it's conventional, right? Maybe just put 20% down and save your liquidity. Once it's time to start buying again, we're probably going to start seeing better deals than we have in decades. And if you have liquidity, you may be able to purchase Airbnbs or investments or things of that nature. But my point is, keep your liquidity going into 2022 2022 and into 2023, and you may be able to take advantage of really awesome buying opportunities. Now, I want to end on this. The three main factors at qualifying for a home, which is credit, income, and assets. So credit, this is what I want you guys to do as you're waiting. So understand this about credit. It's really all about utilization ratio, or how you're using your credit cards. So just remember, only credit cards have utilization ratio, and the maximum utilization ratio you want on each credit card is 30%. So make sure you have your credit cards under 30% prior to it billing, because when it bills, that's actually what's being reported on the bureaus. That's why the lag. So as long as it's paid down before it bills, you guys should be good. Now, the second thing is money or income, okay? So what I want you guys to really consider is getting another source of income. Generally, in order to use two sources of income for lending, you need a 2-year history, whether it's part-time or second job or self-employment, whatever it is, generally you need 2 years history. Now, you may not need that income to qualify for a loan, but it's really nice to have a second income, especially if we go into a recession. Home ownership can be expensive, a roof, foundation, AC, so you need to have money source, especially with the recession right around the corner. So get another source of income. Lastly, savings. Now, in order to know how much money you're wasting, usually you need to monitor your budget. So I always recommend that people download mint.com. See where you're overspending. Usually it's food and subscriptions. See where you're overspending, start doing something about it, and start building your savings account even higher. And that's exactly what I'm doing, guys. Now, that's going to really conclude this video, but I really hope you guys are starting to see the signs. I still have people that comment. It's very rare, but I still have people that comment that keep saying, if you're waiting, it's crazy. You have to buy now. Things are only going to get worse. There's no inventory. Demand is too high. But you guys, this has all happened before, right? This is nothing new. And now we don't have to guess anymore. 2-3 months ago, I was guessing. Now we actually have the data and we have the trends. So long as those things continue, so long as the trends continue and the Federal Reserve doesn't go back on their tightening measures, we're going into a crash. And in my opinion, there is no way we can go into a soft landing because of the amount of money that was poured into our economy. Now, I really appreciate you guys watching this video. I really appreciate you following along my journey. And if you're out there investing in real estate, I do wish you luck and I hope you win.